Welcome to Digital Hospitality. I'm your host, Shawn Walchef. This is a Cali BBQ Media production. We've been doing this show since 2017. Started as Behind the Smoke. Started with a deep thesis that every business needs to be digital first, especially brick and mortar businesses. And every business is in the hospitality business, whether they know it or not. We are so grateful that after 7 years, we've have a community of digital hospitality leaders all over the globe, people that own restaurants, people that are in hotels, people that manage stadiums, people that are in sales, marketing, technology, content creators. And we all realize that no one's coming to tell our story. That's why we put on this show. I chase my curiosity. Our team chases curiosity. We find people that are interesting, people that we want to feature. Jeremy, today's guest, Jeremy Julian, is somebody that I have been following for a while now. We are very aligned in our mission to help hospitality people with technology, simplify technology. Jeremy, I'm really excited to have you on the show. I have some very difficult questions that I'm going to ask you about that I haven't prepped you for, and you were about to share a story with me, but in true podcaster fashion, I wanted to bring it to our audience because I think it's, we say be the show, not the commercial. There's enough commercials. We don't need your origin story and your backstory. Obviously, we'll get into some of that, but I'm going to ask you some tough questions because I think you've got some great answers to share with our audience. So welcome to the show.
I appreciate you having me. I think it's been too long, my friend. We've been doing this thing independently for a while, and I'm grateful that you have me on.
So we're recording this. I'm not sure when we're going to publish it. That's the magic of media. But this is a week after the Cali Barbecue Media team is getting back from going to cover the Big Chicken Conference in Las Vegas, the highlight of our media career by far. I don't know if there's anything that will ever surpass the opportunity to sit down with Shaquille O'Neal for an interview. I also interviewed Roger Perry, who is Perry Rogers, who is the agent of Shaquille O'Neal. He's also the agent for Jason Tatum, also the agent for Usher. He also is a prolific hospitality professional, has 5 restaurants on the Las Vegas Strip with 2 of his partners. He is an investor in Big Chicken, but it was just an incredible week. And for somebody that started a podcast, and I'm talking to another podcaster, in the beginning, no one's listening and everyone tells you you're crazy. And even to this day, people still, it's funny. We posted about the Shaquille interview and I had some friends that I've known forever and they commented either on Facebook or they sent me a text or called me like, I had no idea you had a podcast. I'm like, I have 7. Like we produce 2 shows for clients. We do 5 internal shows. Like we are in the show business. Like we're more in the show business than in the barbecue business. And we love doing barbecue, but, Jeremy, tell me your Shaq story. You were gonna share a story before we started recording, and I wanted to get it for our audience.
Yeah, no, it was quite funny. So years ago, when the Staples Center first opened, I want to say 2001, they were a client of ours, and since I had the privilege to
Staples was a client.
Staples Center, Staples Center. So I got the privilege to go see the Lakers win 3. Well, you'll get super jealous about this. I actually shot baskets with Kobe on the center court at Staples Center. I'll tell you that story after I tell you the Shaq story.
Pictures?
I do not.
What?
I do not. It was back. I mean, it was 2001 when we. I know
you didn't have an iPhone in your pocket.
I didn't have an iPhone in my pocket, so I got to see 3 Lakers championships at Staples Center.
Wow!
I was at the game when Shaq had that alley-oop dunk in the 3rd quarter when they came back against the Trailblazers. I was at that game eating a New York strip at a table right next to Michael Keaton.
Come on,
former Batman, the original Batman. So I got the privilege to go to Staples Center quite a bit. My wife.
That's insane. So you were with Michael Keaton for the alley-oop?
I was literally, going crazy. I had a glass of red wine back before I stopped drinking. I don't know.
I mean, there's so many iconic Laker plays, but for me as a young Laker fan, I mean, I'm 42 years old, but that is the play that I share with my son now that he's 7 and has met Shaquille O'Neal, and we're going through the YouTube highlights and he's like, oh my God, he's the best basketball player on earth. That's amazing. Michael Keaton, Batman, watching that game. Amazing.
Yeah. So I was sitting next to him at a table at the Arena Club, what it was called the Arena Club at the time, having a glass of red wine back before I stopped drinking, New York strip, blue cheese, New York strip, watching that game. And we're like, oh, this game sucks because the Lakers were down huge. And so I got to be at that game. But earlier in the season, they were having some technology problems upstairs, and I was there working the game because I had an employee badge at one point because I loved going to Lakers games so much. And I'm running through the hallways, and Shaq is coming out of the locker room, and I literally run into his stomach because he's such a large mammal. And he just kind of pats me on top of the head and says, you okay, little buddy? And then I kind of run away because this was, 20 some years ago. So years later, no, maybe 2 years later, I was on the court testing some technology for the courtside seats, and Kobe happened to be shooting baskets with just a guy that was shagging balls from. I don't even know. He was always there, similar to your mama mentality stuff that you post. He was always there. Him and Gary Payton. Anytime I'd show up to the arena 2-3 hours before the game, they'd be out shooting baskets. They'd be out jawing at each other. They'd be doing this stuff. And I'm like, when am I going to ever get a chance to shoot baskets with Kobe Bryant? It's him, myself, and this guy shagging balls. And I'm walking around on the court. The ball bounces to me. And I'm like, hey, do you mind? And he's like, go for it. And I'm in work clothes. I've got pants on. I've got, dress shoes on. And I go out and shoot baskets with Kobe. It's one of those stories that I tell my kids, and they call it dad lore. That's their favorite. They're like, that's a dad lore story if I've ever heard one, because who the heck gets a chance to shoot baskets with Kobe?
How many baskets did you shoot?
It was just a couple of minutes. I was like, you know what?
Did you make any?
I did not make any. My normal shot.
Where were you pulling up from?
Just inside the 3-point line on the elbow was always my shot.
That's your shot
on the left side elbow. That was my shot when I was growing up. And so,
what was your percentage? How many did you?
Dude, I was awful. I was awful because I was so nervous. I'm not going to lie. I was so nervous.
Hard to shoot. It's hard to shoot in a stadium. It's a completely different experience with the depth of field, for sure.
Yep.
And not only that, but Kobe's watching you.
Yeah, Kobe Bryant's sitting there, hanging out. Just
you're actually interrupting his practice.
I'm interrupting his practice because I'm like, what's the worst case? I got to do it. But you talk about it. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. What was the worst case? He was going to tell me no.
Wow, that is a phenomenal story. So let's talk about podcasting. You have a phenomenal podcast. It's called The Restaurant Technology Guys, and I want to ask you, why is it one guy now instead of multiple guys? Because I started behind the smoke, and anybody that is a fan of the show, back the first 50 episodes, we had a voicemail of my former business partner when we first opened up the restaurant, Howard. That's how we started the show, was a voicemail of him basically cussing me out. But I started that show with Derek Marceau, and we did 100 episodes of Behind the Smoke. But then we both parted ways, and he started building, his more butcher shops, and I started building this media company. And I talked to a lot of podcasters, a lot of the crazy ones that are willing to publish one episode, let alone publish 10, let alone get to your status where you have hundreds of episodes. Can you share a little bit of advice for anybody that wants to get into the long form storytelling online, using audio, using video, but are thinking about having a podcast host, a guest, a co-host?
So ultimately it started as a webinar series, and it was really, similar to what you were talking about. It wasn't my original vision. I wish I was that clairvoyant that I realized that it was going to be this ultimately a media company where I could help tell people stories that are building tech in the restaurant industry. But originally it started as a lead generator for our business, if I'm being totally truthful. It was a webinar series, and we started it and kind of created this brand persona. I'm a huge fan of Michael Hyatt. And he wrote a book kind of on branding yourself more than just your company and more than just your product. And it was like, once you become that trusted advisor for people, now they'll listen to you when you're trying to sell them something. So that was my original intent. A couple of years went by. We were doing kind of our own thing, not really having guests on. We'd have a guest on.
What year did we start? What year did you
start?
This
was 2017 was really the crux of when we were trying to do them, but it was super infrequent. It was once every 6 weeks. Be like, hey, we got to get an episode done. We'd go into the studio. We'd go record it.
Were you publishing it as on an RSS feed?
I was publishing it on an RSS feed. We had a week website on there, and it was me and our marketing manager at the time, Ryan Williams, who was working for the business at the time. He was our marketing manager. And he's like, hey, let's just get in the room and let's talk about things that people are struggling with. They're struggling with labor management. They're struggling with inventory. They're struggling with this. They're struggling with that. Ultimately, I think our very first guest was somebody that Morgan Harris, co-founder of Restaurant 365. Give
me a three banger, Morgan Harris.
His office was right around the corner from ours. I was like, hey, Morgan, you want to come in and do this podcast thing? And he's like, but at the time I didn't know how to do it remotely. So we had to drive to the office and sit in front of a mic. And it was the three of us in a little 10 by 10 office that we had set up to do that. And so I was like, you know what, this actually works better for me. And so Ryan and I started having a few guests on here and there. Again, our very first remote one was on Skype, of all things, because none of these other tools, Zoom really didn't exist the way it does today.
We did our first during the pandemic when we stopped doing in person. First, we were using Skype. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So that's where it started. And then ultimately Ryan decided he was moving away from the business and really away from California. And so I said, okay, well, I got to find a co-host. And I was originally going to try and find a co-host. And then I realized, you know what, at the end of the day, what is really the purpose? And I redefine what the purpose was. And the purpose for me is really, I'm a 30-year restaurant veteran. My family runs a restaurant technology business. I grew up in the restaurants. I was waiting tables in high school and really even middle school. I spent summers building out cash registers back in the day. And I said, you know what, I want to help the industry that has helped my family build the life that I have. How do I do that? The only way I can do that is by giving back. And so I've had competitors on the show. I've had partners on the show. I've had people that have tech that starts and doesn't work ultimately on the show. But I just decided, you know what, I'm going to change the mantra, and it's going to really be about how do I highlight people that are doing really cool things that are going to help restaurant operators to make more money, to help serve their guests better, or any of those kind of things, rather than making it all about lead generation to help our business grow and do those things. As a byproduct, similar to what you guys have done with the barbecue restaurant or anything else, it has also already done that. But at the same time, I know lots of people come up to me at trade shows and stuff and say, hey, I heard about this product on this show. You know, I love it. It's helped my business. It's helped me do this. It's helped me do that. So that's really, I changed the charter for what the show was going to be from its original inception.
Hey everyone, Avi Gorin, CEO and co-founder of Marquee, and I want to talk about the customer journey for a second. You never know as a restaurant owner where your guests are truly coming from. End of the day, we do see some patterns around two types of search behaviors: direct versus discovery. Direct search, for an example, would be jumping into Google and saying Cali barbecue hours, right? I know where I want to go to eat, but I'm missing a key detail. I need a little bit more information. Discovery, which is the bulk of searches, is barbecue in San Diego, restaurants near me, takeout near me, right? One of the best ways to be found for more discovery searches is leveraging keywords. Reviews are basically free content for you to leverage. Think about keywords that are relevant to your brand, your location, and include as many of those in your review responses as possible, right? How can you go about doing this? Let's set up reports, utilize tools like Google Trends, find out what's going on in your area and how you can help leverage these keywords and review responses, because someone else is doing that, right? If you need some examples, you could do anything from including summer menu, gluten-free menu, leverage specific menu items like the dreaded and beloved spice pumpkin anything in your review responses, right? Let them know what's coming. Let your reviewers know something they should come back and try. And of course, if all of this just seems overwhelming and daunting because you're already running a restaurant and have enough on your plate, just leverage the team at Marquee to do this for you. We handle all of this. We're experts in this space. We can automate this so it's just another item that you know you are taking care of. Again, that's marquee.com, marquii.com. Know you. However, we did recently buy marquii.com. So if you do misspell it, we got you. You'll still find us. We can still help you.
The results are in. National Restaurant Association show. Kyle and Sarah and myself, we were at the Davos sales tax booth and we were polling restaurant owners on the floor. This was a very unscientific poll, but the results are resounding. Restaurant owners do not like sales tax. Nobody likes sales tax. Doesn't matter what business owner you are, small business, big business. Davo automates the sales tax process. We are so grateful that Davo is the sponsor of this show. They automate sales tax at our Cali barbecue restaurants. It is $50 a month. It integrates with all the major point of sale partners, including Toast. So if you want to sleep at night, if you want to not worry about sales tax, Go to Davo, check them out. Davo Sales Tax. Let us know how they're helping automate your sales tax in your restaurant so that we can share your Davo story on digital hospitality. So let's give some people that are going to be listening to this. We've got a lot of podcasters that listen, but a lot of people that have somewhere in the back of their mind, like, I think I want to start a show. I think I have a voice. I think I have a story. I think I have curiosity that's going to help me find people that I want on my show. The beautiful thing when you're your own media company, you don't need to ask for permission. You can literally interview whoever you want. The success of your show is dependent on your ability to be curious, to persist, to learn how to be better, to ask better questions. Give us some lessons learned. Give me a story about maybe the dark time about podcasting where you didn't think it was worth it. Maybe you looked at the download numbers, and I mean, people always ask about the ROI of podcasting, and I share the story of, like, we didn't make $1 for 5 years. Like, I spent restaurant money, my time, my investment. And if it wasn't me, if I was like in a corporate job and I asked, the CEO or the chief financial officer, hey, like, we're going to turn marketing into a media company, like, give me a budget. I would have been shut down year 2, year 3 for sure. Definitely.
Yep.
Like, no way. Like, they're like, where's the ROI, Shawn? So give us a story, something.
Well, I'll tell you I'll tell you a funny story first. I have 3 teenage kids, and they like to make fun of me. We'll be on road trips, and they like to play the show in the back of the car, or they'll play it on the Bluetooth speaker, and they'll tease me about it. But at the end of the day, they actually think it's quite cool. My daughter's in a culinary program. I may have shared this with you on another conversation we've had. My daughter's in the culinary program at her high school. They played episodes of the show to the students to talk about restaurant technology. So, cool. And at the same time, a little bit cringeworthy, because when my daughter's sitting out in the spa with their girlfriends, and she plays it on the Sonos for the entire backyard to hear the trade, it's kind of funny. But more so than anything, I think around the office, it's always this, why are you doing this? What does this have to do with selling restaurant tech, type of idea that I would get early on. And people would be like, oh, that's just some stupid side project that Jeremy's working on. And now the opposite is happening. They listen, they want to learn, they want to understand who these partners are. But early days, to your point, it was 4 years before I really got any level of credence. And it was really not until the pandemic kind of was in the midst of it where people had space and time to listen and went, dude, this is really cool. This is amazing. So now all of our reps, they'll send episodes out to clients about things that they think they need to know about and such. It's quite cool. But to your point, it's, those people that are crazy enough to see the vision of where it's going. And I mean, quite frankly, and I've told you this before, you helped me on that journey, because I didn't believe in myself, but there was people like yourself and some others that were like, no, just keep doing it. And eventually it's going to pay off. But there was times where you're like, I got to get it in the edit room. I got to go deal with this. I got to go record another show. I got to go move my calendar around. I got to be home, because I do most of my recordings from the house now. I got to be home, but my kids are coming home from school, and I got to make sure that I do all of these things. So it's a tough balancing act. But at the end of the day, I think, the influence that you're able to, I mean, I had, over 2,500 downloads just this week. And amazing. I say to myself, who in our company is talking to 2,500 people this week? Not one other person. And I look at that and go, you know what? I have episodes that get downloaded from 2 years ago that you're like, why are people back in the episode archives 2 years ago? But they're looking for something, they find it, and now they find a trusted source, and then they'll reach out to me and say, hey, can you do an intro or whatever else? So it's quite cool.
Give me some basic playbook advice for somebody that wants to start a show. I know you have people just like I do all the time, and I give them the truth. But I would love to hear your playbook.
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is it's not as hard as you think it is. I can tell you, when you and I started, it was a lot harder than it is now. It's the tools that are out there are much easier than they once were. It doesn't need to be perfect. I would tell you, just start. Just like a YouTube career, just starting is part of getting over the cringeworthiness of your own voice and hearing yourself talk and having to listen to those things back is probably the biggest thing that I would tell people is get started. The second thing I would say is you're not going to know what your cadence is and even what your format is until you start. I went back and changed hosting providers about a year and a half ago, and I went back and listened to some of the early episodes, and I was like, ooh, I was pretty bad. I was interrupting guests. I was saying stupid crap. I was asking stupid questions. I was talking to somebody from a pizza place that was out of Wisconsin a while back, and this is again another little bit of cringeworthy. And I was at an event with the CIO of BJ's Restaurants and Brewhouse, customer of ours. CIO is a friend of mine. And I had said something to this pizza brand out of Wisconsin. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Cheese comes from Wisconsin. There must be a lot of pizza places because of the cheese. And he's like, that was the dumbest thing you've ever said, but he still remembers it. And I'm like, this is episode 2 or 3 years ago. But I think across the board, really at the end of the day, it's that you can go impact people's lives that you're never going to meet in a positive way. So let's go do that. The other thing that I think I've heard recently that I think is really, really cool. You're a father. You said it on I think my show, or I've heard you say it a few different times. Is just how much would you pay to go get audio from your great grandfather or your great grandfather or your great great grandfather, and to hear what life was like back then, or what were they talking about, or what were they thinking about? That legacy that you're building, that legacy for your kids and your grandkids and your great grandkids, God forbid something were to happen to you and you wouldn't be able to even see them. They now have a piece of you that they're going to be able to live with. And so do you want to give that gift to your next generation and beyond? Those are opportunities to do that. And I think it's a really cool opportunity. And so the thing I tell people all the time, just start. You don't even have to publish it. Just start. And you're going to find that this is something that's really easier to do than you think it is once you get started. But it's that fear and anxiety to get to, from 0 to 1 that people need to overcome.
What does digital hospitality mean to you?
It is, hospitality, I 100% agree with you. We're aligned that every business is in the hospitality business. There's not one business in the world that's not in the hospitality business. Where I agree with you is that everybody also has a digital presence. No longer are there days where people don't have some level of influence. And so you've got to meet your guests where they are. What are guests looking for? For you and your wife, when you're on your way home from soccer practice, you're looking for one thing from that brand. When you and your wife are going out on a date night, you're looking for something else. You've got to be able to serve that guest, however that guest wants to interact with your brand at the time that they want to interact with that brand, or you're not going to be relevant. And so whether that's today, it's, the third-party delivery aggregators. Tomorrow, it may be a voice AI tool that's getting the order in, or it could be a text message tool. So it's meeting your guests where they are and delivering more than what they paid for in value through your experience that you're generating for them.
Give me this current state of where you see technology in restaurants. We're in 2024, recording this at the end of August. What are you seeing in the industry, and where do you see us going?
I see us finally coming around to understanding how much power the consumer has. I think for so long, restaurant brands, whether it be because of technology lacking or because of stubborn old behaviors, just forcing the guest to do it the way that the restaurant wants them to do it. I've always hated when I walk into a fast food place and they say, is it for here or to go? I haven't even ordered anything. I haven't even said anything to you, and you start with, is it for here or to go? So to me, it's like, you don't even know what I want. I could have been asking for where's the bathroom? And you start with, the very first thing you say to me is for here or to go. I think restaurants are having to adapt to what consumers are looking for. The Amazon effect, the Apple effect, the Google effect, the Facebook effect have come into restaurants. Now consumers are expecting more from you. And you've got to be able to meet them there. As a restaurant owner, I think there's more data available. And with the tools that are coming out today, and again, you highlight a lot of them, the tools coming out today, the data you're collecting now needs to be used to make better decisions to serve your guests. And if you're not, you're failing. And so to me, ensuring that you're using data to make data-driven decisions about what it is that you're looking for, or they're validating the decisions that you already have. you own a restaurant. You may look at it and go, you know what, it's super slow on Mondays. Maybe we don't open on Mondays. But the data may prove that you need to be open on Mondays, but only digitally. Or you need to be open on Mondays, but only to do catering. Or you need to be open on, Wednesdays, but you need to have a happy hour on Wednesdays because your alcohol sales are way down. I think all too often restaurants have gotten stuck into this place where they operate the way that they always have. And so I think the data about the kitchen, data about the guests, data about the transactions is there today. And the tools have become accessible that you don't need to be an FP&A analyst to be able to figure out how to make a data-driven decision any longer.
How many times do you have to explain to a potential client that CBS is Custom Business Solutions?
It happens all the time. My favorite's when we get the website hits where it's like, I can't get into my CBS Sports Network app on my iPad. We get those probably twice a week where people will send us an inquiry on the website saying, I can't get into the app that's on my iPad or app that's on my phone. So yeah, CBS has been, CBS has been a fantastic, because it is custom. So it's like, you know what, you want something new, you want something different, we'll customize it for you. And at the same time, we often, especially based in Southern California, you got, CBS studios up in LA. And so we would get that a lot where people would do that. And we're trying to rebrand to CBS North Star so that we got the product name and the company name in there, but still people, CBS is CBS. And that's a lot of times what people call us.
How do you get in front of more restaurant owners? Obviously we talked about the podcast, but what are the other ways?
Trade shows, trade shows is a big piece of it.
How many trade shows do you go to?
Exhibit at 6.
Yeah, Exhibit at 6.
Exhibit at 6.
What are the 6?
MERTEC, FS Tech, National Restaurant Association Show, MERTEC Executive Summit.
You're going to be in San Diego?
I will not be in San Diego, but one of our team members will be. I had a conflict
compel you
with
to
the
come to
family.
San Diego?
I had a conflict with the family. It's
Bring 'em.
Kids' college stuff.
Okay.
So
fair enough.
I
We'll
had
let
a
it
conflict,
pass.
but I've got a team that's planning on being there. NRF in New York, because that show is enormous. If you haven't done NRF, it would be something I would tell you to consider. NRF, it's the National Retail Federation show.
Okay, that's soon, right?
It's in January. It's always in January. It's always the third week in January. It's always over like President's Weekend or whatever that January, holiday weekend is.
Okay.
And it's been around for over 100 years. It's like NRA, but it's for retailers.
Really?
And so you can see what grocery, the Krogers and the Albertsons and the Walmarts of the world are doing to figure out how is it going to impact us. So I go to that show every year. What was the 6th one?
You exhibit at that show?
Yes, we do. We do. I'm seeing a convergence in restaurants going into, your newest venue is inside of a non-traditional restaurant, right?
Huge fan of non-traditional.
It's a non-traditional restaurant.
Yep.
We have been doing for 7 years now what we call grocerant sales. So grocerants is the restaurants that are inside of a grocery store, whether it's an ethnic grocer that's got, a pho place and a ramen place and a sushi place, or it's a Mexican market that's got, Mexican supermarket. Vallarta, El Super, Northgate markets all have a taqueria inside of the Mexican market. The food service part of that needs to be operated like a restaurant. You need to be digital hospitality. You need to be digital. Right now, they're not. They don't have kiosks. They don't have all of these different tools on the technology side. So we exhibit at that show to tell retailers, look at C-stores. You go into a 7-Eleven, you go into a Circle K, you go into a Quick Trip, they're a Wawa. They're all looking to get portions of the food service because fuel is going away with electric cars, and it's not really going away, but it's dwindling. Fuel sales are dwindling. And so people need that 30-minute dwell time. What are they going to do when I'm sitting outside of a Wawa charging my car or a Buc-ee's charging my car? Let's go figure out how to serve them some brisket sandwiches, which absolutely is a convergence. If you read all of the collateral, grocery and C-stores are all looking to get in there. So we attend NRF as part of that so that we can be on that, front edge of that to make sure that people understand there's options out there.
Wow, you're making a compelling argument for NRF.
Well, even Toast's latest filings, which I know you're a longtime supporter of the Toast stuff. Their latest filings is that they're going into this space.
Oh yeah,
they're planning
they're going to be at the show.
Yeah. So NRF is one of those shows, and it's as big as NRA. It's 70,000 people or something like that are at NRF for 3 days in January in New York City. So it's a cool show. I don't remember the 6th one, but Yeah. I mean, and we like to walk like CRA. We had somebody walk in CRA, the TRA show in Texas. We go to, some of the bigger regional shows just to walk around and see what other people are doing.
What advice do you have for a restaurateur or anybody that's attending a trade show? Because there's a lot of bad ways to do it.
There absolutely is. So a mutual friend of ours, Justin Ulrich, and I
it's my guy. I was just texting
Justin a full breakdown because it was his first time to NRA, and I sent him a list of what to do and what not to do.
Fantastic.
And obviously he's a vendor, so less as a restaurateur. The first thing I would say is wear comfortable shoes.
Yep.
Second thing I would tell you is brand yourself. I mean, that's a Shawn Walchef, make sure you brand yourself, makes people, unless you're one of those huge brands that you don't want people talking to you, in which case do the opposite. If you're working for Taco Bell and you don't want people
I would argue that Taco Bell should be letting people know that they're Taco Bell.
I would agree with that. At times you get restaurateurs that don't want people to know because they're looking for something very specific and they're going in to do that. Got to do the prep work. You got to do the prep work. You got to make sure that you know what you're going to look for. You have to make sure that you stay clear of the time suckers, the blood suckers that are there, whether they're vendors or people that because it's really easy to get stuck in a 45-minute conversation. You got 4 hours on the floor and you get stuck in a 45-minute conversation because you haven't seen Shawn in a long time. And now 45 minutes later, and you don't get accomplished what you're looking for. Yep. And so I would tell you to prioritize your day, figure out what are the 3 or 4 things that you're trying to solve for. Don't find a solution to a problem that you may or may not have. Find a problem that you have and then go seek that solution and ask. If you find something that you think will work, do not do a demo on the show floor. Take their business card and tell them you'll follow up with them later because you know what? You're emotionally high in the middle of that trade show floor. This is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then you get back, you're like, why did I say yes to that? Or why did I buy that fryer? That was dumb. I got super emotional about it. And I bought this fryer on the show floor. So I would tell you, don't do that. And then lastly, prioritize that day that says, I'm looking to figure out how to automate my frying solution. Go ask. Go figure out from the people. Hey, and then the last thing I always tell people, as I'm walking around and I run into those blood-sucking, time-sucking people, I go, what have you seen that's really cool? What have you seen that's unique and different? So if I would have run into you at NRA, I'd be like, hey, dude, what have you seen that's unique and different? Oh, I was just over at this place and they have this boba making machine that's super different than anybody else. Okay, let me go check that out. Yeah. Then go take the business card, go watch it, go figure out what that is. So
that is great advice, is crowdsourcing the people that you know and respect that have also been doing, it's literally impossible. If you go to the National Restaurant Association, it is impossible for one person, a team of 20 people to cover the entire floor. But what you can do is find people that you respect, admire, and know, and ask them that specific question and help yourself, get to the things that you actually want to see. But I love the don't make a point of purchase on the show floor and don't do a demo on the show floor. As much as I love all of our partners that do demos, find the brands that you want to work with, find the problems, find the pain points that you currently have. There is plenty of time to follow up afterwards.
Absolutely. Well, I think too many people in restaurants, they see a cool piece of tech, especially those early adopters, and they jump straight into it, but they may not even have the problem. The consumers may or may not even want what you're looking to solve for. So figure out, why are you going? You're spending 3 days. Are you just spending 3 days there to go get drunk with your buddies? Then it's a totally different conversation. If you're really going to solve a problem, then be intentional about spending that time to go solve that problem.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So if you guys are listening to this show, we want you to join the show. We republish the LinkedIn Live, our Rising Tide LinkedIn Live calls every single week, 10 a.m. Pacific time on Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pacific time on Friday. You can join, go to Cali BBQ Media on LinkedIn, and you can raise your hand. You can come on stage. You can tell us about your restaurant, tell us about what tech company you work for, tell us if you're in sales, if you're in marketing, if you're a content creator. We have digital hospitality leaders from all over the globe. It's a chance for you to be on the show. So if you're listening, if you're watching, please join us on LinkedIn Live. We used to do these on Clubhouse. Now they're on LinkedIn Live. It's an audio only room. It's a chance for you to start telling your story because no one's coming. Jeremy, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for all of the work that you do in the industry. I know this is just the beginning. Have we met? We met in real life.
We did. We met at Mertech when you spoke maybe 2 years ago.
Oh, that's right. That was really
You were
cool.
walking through the Paris with your wife and 2 kids.
That's right.
And I stopped you, and I mean, we had talked for years, but had never actually met. I'm like, dude, this is really weird, but I'm gonna total fanboy here for a second and say hello. And you were laughing. You're like, dude, this is dumb, but at the same time, I've had those same experiences where people walk up and they go, "You're the restaurant technology guy."
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, I am. How can I help you?
I mean, that's what we have a deep belief. And if you're listening to this show, you're part of the community, you're part of the family. If you see Jeremy at a show, please reach out to him. Please listen to his show. If you find me, we're both weirdly available. LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. You're on Instagram? You post on Instagram?
I am on Instagram. I post more personal stuff on Instagram. So
Perfect.
Less business stuff on Instagram. So you
That's
get
fine.
to see me dropping my kid off at college this past weekend. Go. And, my daughter's softball and my kids' church stuff.
I'm a huge dad content guy. So anybody that's posting dad content, you got me. But Jeremy, thank you for the time. We appreciate it. And if you guys want to reach out to me, add Shawn P. Walchef, weirdly available, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the platforms, Shawn at CaliBBQ.media if you want to send me an email. Jeremy, what's the easiest way for them to learn more about custom business solutions?
Yeah. I mean, Restaurant Technology Guys is the blog and podcast that you can learn more about restaurant tech. And, if you're interested in being on the show there, please reach out to me. There's a contact us form. Probably most active on the business side on LinkedIn. I'm constantly posting and commenting and reaching out to people. CBSNorthstar.com is the business website for the point of sale and the other platforms that we sell. Honestly, I like talking to cool people. I like engaging. I like hearing about cool solutions. I like actually solving. So I'm going to give you one last one before we sign off. FS Tech is coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
And we actually have a contest going on that if you can stump us as a business that we can't solve your problem, we'll name a star in the solar system after you.
That's cool.
And so if anybody, if this does get out before then, if not, then reach out to us because we like to do cool things like that. North Star, let's name a Shawn Walchef star out there if you want to name it after whoever you want to name it after. So so we're doing that at this trade show. But again, we like to solve unique problems. For us, it's less about, getting to 100,000 restaurants for us running our tech. It's more about solving deep problems that people are struggling with within the restaurant industry and building 20 and 30-year relationships with people and making their life better with what we do.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate it. Jeremy Julian, you're the man. We appreciate you. As always, guys, stay curious, get involved. Don't be afraid to ask for help, and we'll catch you next week. Thank you.